It's over, bro. It's over, Brody. I told you. I told you it's here. The turning point, many will not realize, the turning point isn't now. The turning point started with the ICE protests that took place in like LA and all around the country last year. And ever since then, I've been telling you, like, it's going to keep getting worse. Like, this administration's approvals are going to keep going down. They're not going to be able to recover from this because they don't know how to recover from it. They don't have any vision. They don't have any positive vision for a future of this country. They just only have negativity. And Ludwig too, woke is so back. My coworker Ludwig spoke out on this. Hell yeah. I mean, there was an environment of silence. So does Cinna. Cinna's been talking about it though. It's not new. There's been an environment of silence among streamers in general, and that silence, in my opinion, came from having a lot of this content sphere get dominated by right-wing clippers, dominated by Twitter discourse, clips out of context, and the only like vector for woke politics, the only vector for like normal politics, like normalcy, a demand for a better future was coming from a guy who was like the number one op on the internet. So a lot of those people saw that and were like, maybe I shouldn't speak out because I don't want to get yelled at in the same way Hassan gets yelled at on a daily basis, and sponsorship deals and stuff like that too. So I think that's what it is. That's what it was. And now it's gotten to such a point where people cannot keep taking it.
Now is
right. They can't keep quiet. They're like, this is too much. This is too much. And there's also a lot of confidence that you gain when you realize that you have the numbers. That's why I always say the internet is not real. Okay. The internet is not the real world. And because a lot of people spend a lot of time on the internet, they end up feeling as though the internet is the real world, right? And the internet is very right-wing. It's very, very right-wing. It's very far right, as a matter of fact. So I think that caused a lot of people to just like not come out with their opinions until it got to a point where it was like, this is undeniably cruel. This is completely unacceptable. And that's where we're at. Like, because this is what I kept saying over and over again, right? These are people. There are kind-hearted people. There are woke people, I guess. There are open-minded people out there. They're just not voicing their opinions because they're worried. They're worried that they're going to lose their fans. They're worried that they're worried that the environment that they're currently in on the internet is how it is, like how they'll lose a big chunk of their audience because like all their audiences are right wing or something. That's not the case.
I was only going to make the video a lot more about that because that's a whole big thing. I said I'd be free after the movie was done if I was able to do that. But given what's happening in the world, and especially today in Minnesota, and there's a lot of times where I feel like there is no good way to go, haha, let me promote this thing in the face of ignoring all the other shit that's going on in the world. Now, I was originally going to make the video a lot more about that.
Mark not shying away from speaking about ICE shooting in Minnesota and saying he didn't want to overshadow it with his own content, just speaks leagues about his character. Wait, what? I don't even understand. What did he say? He just didn't want to like cover it or something? Or did he cover it at, I don't know. He's saying he isn't comfortable simply making content and not covering it. Oh, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, Markiplier's always been woke.
ICE. Okay, but unironically though, fuck them. Straight up. Hey, fuck them. Yeah, it's fuck them, don't care. And if you don't like that I say that, it's fuck you too. You know what I mean? Hey, it's fuck you too. That is that simple. It's really that easy for me.
I don't buy that bullshit of Hassan. For 3 years, we watched children get murked and all these content creators stay silent. How are we all supposed to forgive them for speaking up? Brother, I'm not saying you should forgive them. I'm just explaining to you that the tide is shifting and it's a good thing. And also, secondly, ICE is also kidnapping children here in the United States of America. Children are children no matter where they are, okay? Children in Palestine, children in America getting separated from their parents by ICE. They're both bad. So if people are starting to, at the very least, criticize what's happening in their backyards, it's a good start. Now it's pertinent on us to move them further along in their journey, okay? To help them understand that these systems of violence are tied to one another directly. But that's also, this is not unexpected. Also, Cinna's been saying this stuff, so it's not even new for Cinna. But I'm glad that there's a lot of people showing support for content creators who are actually speaking out. That's a good thing, because this is how, at least in this environment, people start realizing that they're not alone. I always experience, when I'm outside, when I'm in the real world, when I go to these protests and I meet you guys in person, one of the things you always tell me is like, I always felt so alone about the way I viewed the world until I encountered your content and I realized that I'm not so alone. There are so many of you that actually come from fairly right-wing neighborhoods, fairly right-wing backgrounds in general, right-wing families, feeling as though you're like completely alone in the dark and that no one understands you. No one sees where you're at, right? No one sees the world in the same way that you do. And then you find a sense of purpose and a community here where you're like, no, actually, people do look at this stuff and think it's fucked up. And we have to expand on that. We have to expand on that sense of shared purpose and a sense of community around progressive values, a sense of community that centers humanity and empathy for those who are, more vulnerable than we are. So this is the reason why I will never cast aside people coming out and saying good things. Now, of course, there are obviously differences. There are obviously some bad faith actors who will utilize incidents like Asmongold, when they see that it's like indefensible to a certain degree, because he was saying fuck around and find out like last week, and then boom, all of a sudden it happens again, and he's like, oh, I guess this is a bridge too far. Like that's a little bit different than the likes of, Markiplier coming out and speaking out, because he's always been very progressive. He's always actually, he's put his money where his mouth is. He's always been progressive. I would go so far as to say even with Charlie, like he's the normie meter, but he also has a political point of view and he doesn't shy away from saying it. So I'm happy. I'll always take that, regardless of whether or not they're not there at the right time, or even, especially from my own personal perspective. You have to think about it this way. These are my colleagues. These are my peers. In some instances, these are my friends, maybe now coworkers, right? And for years and years, I've been speaking truth to justice, especially as it pertains to Palestinian existence. And while I was getting inundated with smears over and over again, demanding that the federal government actually come after me, detain me, the federal government literally did detain me. Not a single one of these guys spoke out. So if I can find it in my fucking heart to still turn around and say, let bygones be bygones, it's good that these guys are speaking out, you should be able to as well. Okay? Do you understand? That's it. You're a better person than me? Yeah, because I'm not in this for an agenda that revolves around getting a fucking quick dunk on people who I don't think are perfect. Okay? Find solidarity in those afraid as well, and stand together. Courage is something that can be hard to find for yourself, but it is in abundance when given to others that might need it. Yeah, and that's the role that I play. That's the role that I try to play, at the very least, to the best of my ability. What did you think of my state? Never again? No, it's awesome. I love Minneapolis. I love Minnesota. Minnesota's beautiful. I will definitely be back, hopefully under better circumstances. But yeah, so like I said, if I can find it in my heart to be like, you shouldn't get super mad about these people only now speaking out, because it's still good that they're speaking out at all. And it's good because change never comes unless people have the courage to speak out. Change never comes unless people have the courage to speak out. And people will never get the courage to speak out until, they see others doing it. And that's precisely my point. That's my job. That's the way I see my role in American society, in modern American society, is that I try to, with my community, there's a very sizable, very large community. I try to make it so that people understand that, like, this is fashionable and cool if you only care about politics from the perspective of vibes, and that it is something that is appropriate. It is something that it should be lauded. It is something that you shouldn't be afraid to say. Yeah. But the tide is shifting. That's what I choose to look at. The tide is shifting dramatically.